Welcome to an invitation. I'm Elizabeth Stone. Today I invite you to join me in making 3 quick and easy summer soups using fresh ingredients during the summertime that are going to be so yummy. They're all served cold. So we have a ginger carrot soup, we're going to make a cucumber bisque, and a sweet corn and avocado soup. We're going to start with the ginger carrot. So I've got a pot here and we're going to saute some onions. So I've got about a 1/4 cup of olive oil that I'm going to put in. And then we have a cup of onions I'm going to add to the pot. And we're going to let those cook for just a minute. So we'll just stir these up and let these get nice and soft. And remember, we want to cook these until they become translucent. So they're very white to start, and then you will see as they cook, they start to become very clear and almost they change from white to sort of a pale clear. So we're gonna just let that cook for a minute. I have some minced garlic here, so it's 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. I'm gonna add that. And then we have a little cumin. Got a tablespoon of cumin and a tablespoon of ground ginger. Now, if you have fresh ginger, you can absolutely use fresh ginger. I love to use fresh ginger, but it's not always readily available. So if you use fresh ginger, you're just going to want to take the skin off and chop it up real fine. It doesn't matter too much how much you chop it because it's all going to go in the blender in just a little bit. And get that all mixed in, and this onions still need to cook just a little bit longer. That's how you know when you're ready, is when the onions are ready. They are sort of your predictor in when you need to go to the next step. So we're gonna let those continue to cook for just a minute. And then I'm gonna add in a minute, I've got about a pound of carrots, and we've just cut them up into some smaller pieces so they cook a little bit. And then we're going to add some we're going to add some vegetable broth and coconut milk. So this is a gluten-free, vegan, plant-based dish. So it is really wonderful if you've got friends that are vegan. This is a great vegan soup option, but it's also one of my very favorite options. Carrots go in. We're just going to toss that a little bit in with those onions. Get those nice and mixed up. It's starting to smell really yummy. All right, and now I'm going to add 4 cups. This is a vegetable broth. So if you're not worried about it being vegetarian or vegan, you could certainly use chicken broth, but we make this soup trying to make it a vegan soup so that we have a vegan option. So I'm just going to put that in. I'm going to turn my heat up a little bit so that it's on high because I want this to come to a boil. Get all those good flavors mixed in. And then I'm going to add a cup of coconut milk. So you could also use almond milk if you'd like, but this is a dairy substitute, of course, but it's made from coconut. This gives us a really nice flavor, and it's thicker than most of the other non-dairy milk, so it gives it a nice texture as well and thickens up the soup a little bit. That's one of the reasons that I like to use the coconut milk in this particular soup. So we're going to let this come to a boil and let it cook for about 10 to 15 minutes until the carrots get nice and soft. And then we will run it through the blender. So we've cooked this for about 15 minutes, and you can see the carrots are getting nice and soft. They don't have to be super soft, but they just need to be cooked down a little bit. And I wish you could smell this. It smells so yummy. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to put this in the blender. We're going to blend it till it's smooth. Then we're going to come back and taste it for seasoning. You always want to season after you blend it to make sure all those flavors get in. Then we'll add a little bit of salt if it's needed and a little bit of white pepper. So we'll do that and then we'll give it a taste. All right, look at this beautiful color. This is all blended up and you get this beautiful orange color. Is that gorgeous? All right, let's give it a little taste. It's really good, but it does need a touch of salt. The salt is really interesting. The salt will help bring out the sweetness of the carrots, which you would think the opposite, but it does. The salt reacts with the carrots and gives it a little sweetness. And then I like to use white pepper in this soup. The dark pepper, black pepper is a little bit too strong, so we just put a little bit of white pepper. And then we're gonna stir it again. The beautiful thing about this soup is you can serve it hot, but it's also a fabulous cold summer soup as well. Beautiful. Up next, the cucumber soup. So I've started with what we usually do with soup. I've got some onions and garlic simmering in a little bit of oil in the pot. And I'm gonna let that get nice and cooked down, and then we're going to add our cucumbers. This is Cucumber Bisque, but I do wanna show you that we have cut these cucumbers and seeded them. So we cut them in half lengthwise and just take a spoon and scoop out all of the seeds. That way we don't have all those seeds in the soup and we just have the nice flavor of the cucumbers. So now I'm gonna put the cucumbers in. This is about 2 cups of cucumbers. So I'm gonna go ahead and put those in with the garlic and the onions. We have a runaway. Let's put that one in. And we're gonna toss that and get all of that nice and mixed in so that onion and garlic is combining with the cucumber. Give it a nice flavor. And then we're going to add 2 cups of vegetable broth. This is also a vegetable soup. It's vegetarian, and I will show you at the end that it can be vegan if you want it to be. We have a little yogurt that we add to it at the end, and if you do want it to be vegan and not just vegetarian, you can absolutely use a non-dairy yogurt to add to it to give it some texture. All right, so we're gonna let this cook for about 15 minutes, and then we'll be back to blend it and add the spices. All right, so you can see that I took the mixture, the onions, the garlic, and the cucumbers, and the vegetable broth, and then we blended it. It takes a while to blend the cucumber. You wanna make sure that you blend it really well so it's smooth. You can still see some of the pieces of cucumber here, but you see you've got this beautiful green color, and that's really what we want. So we're gonna go back into our pot, and we're going to then add the rest of our seasoning to it. I've got some dill. This is about a teaspoon of dried dill. You can certainly use fresh dill if you have it. Just remember that the fresh to dry, it's about twice as much fresh as it is dry. And then I have a 1/4 cup of fresh diced mint. And we're gonna use a little bit of parsley. It's about 1/8 of a cup of parsley. I'm gonna mix that in. Look at that. Oh, it smells so good. And then we're going to add, this is almond milk. So this time I'm using almond milk instead of coconut milk. Again, you can use either. This is about 3/4 of a cup of almond milk. And now, this is yogurt. This is Greek yogurt, unflavored Greek yogurt. It's about 3/4 of a cup. If you want to make this vegan, then you would need to use a non-dairy yogurt substitute, and you can do that. But this is a nice component. This still is a vegetarian soup. It doesn't have any animal products in it, and it makes a nice soup. This is a soup that I prefer to serve cold. The other soup you can do either way, but I like this one cold. It really brings out the flavors in the soup. So we're going to let this cook for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then we're gonna chill it. It's gonna be ready to go. So let's give it a taste. It does need a little salt and a little white pepper. Again, I like to use white pepper in soups. It's a little bit milder. And we'll add a little bit of salt and we'll be ready to go. All right. Now for our last soup, we're gonna make a summer corn and avocado soup. This is a very yummy soup. It can be served cold or hot, and also you can make it a little bit spicy. Today I'm gonna make it with a little bit of jalapeno, but if you don't like spicy, just leave the jalapeno out. So as usual, when we start a soup, I've got onion and garlic sauteed in a little butter and olive oil in the pot. Seems like all good soups start with onions and garlic and butter and olive oil. So that's been cooking, and now the onion is transparent and ready to go. And I'm going to add this about a tablespoon of chopped jalapeno into that mixture. We're going to stir that in, and then we're going to add 2 cups of corn. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in, and we're going to let that cook for just a minute in that butter and garlic and onion, and let that corn get nice and warm and start to release all those yummy flavors in it. This one is extremely simple. It is also a vegetarian soup. It is also vegan. It doesn't have any dairy products in it. One of the reasons I like most of these soups is because they're light for the summer and no dairy in them. Don't get me wrong, I love dairy. Now, I did lie, it does have some butter in it. So if you don't want to use butter, that's fine. You can just use olive oil, and then it does become completely dairy-free. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to put in about 2 cups of vegetable broth. And we are going to let this come to a boil and simmer for about 5 minutes before we put it into the blender. So I'm going to let this cook, and then we'll be back. We'll have it done in the blender, and then we'll do the finishing steps. All right, so I've blended this all. You can see it's nice and completely blended through, very nice and creamy. And now we're going to add the avocado. You always want to add the avocado towards the end. So I'm going to go ahead and put that right into the blender. This is 1 avocado cubed. If you want it to taste a little more avocado-y, then you absolutely could add some more. I'm also going to add some fresh cilantro to it to give it a little bit of that Mexican flavor. And we're going to go ahead and put a little salt and pepper in, and then we will blend it one more time and taste it one final time for seasoning. So we're going to give it another blend. And I will make a note, if you'll watch, I am putting a towel over this when you're blending. You have to be very careful when you're blending hot soups, because if you don't use a towel, sometimes the heat will pop the top off, or it will spew out the spout at you, and that's happened before. So be very careful with that when you're doing that. Now let's give this a little taste, see what it tastes like. It needs a little more seasoning. It's still very hot. I think just a little more salt, and then we're good to go. Just going to do a little more salt. We'll give it a final blend, and then we'll show you all 3 of these soups we just made. Voila, we have 3 beautiful, quick and easy summer soups. Now, you certainly wouldn't have to make all of these for one occasion, although if you want to, you can, because look at the beautiful colors they have. I love to serve soups in little shot glasses because you get to see the soup, and if you wanted to do 2 different ones, you could have 2 different colors. It'd make a really beautiful presentation on a tray. You can make these ahead of time. These would hold for 4 or 5 days in the refrigerator, and they're just so yummy, and using all of the beautiful summer flavors and herbs that we have that just make summer special. Anyway, friends, remember, enjoy cooking, enjoy entertaining, but most importantly, enjoy the experience. Cheers. Until next time.